Hare Krishna. Today we are going to summarize chapter number 6 of Jaiv Dharm, and the title of this chapter is Nit Dharma, Race and Caste. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjan Shalakya Chakshurunilimintam Yen Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सप्रथम मेरे दीक्षा गुरु श्री भक्तिवेदांत नारायण महाराज की दंडवत प्रणाम। तत्पश्चात द गैलेक्सी ऑफ माई शिक्षा गुरु and सबको दंडवत प्रणाम। And thereafter all the Vaishnavas and the listeners to this recording, इन सबको मेरा यथा योग्य दंडवत प्रणाम। So we start with this chapter number 6, and then chapter number 5 towards the end we had seen that the descendant of Chand Kazi, who was an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kazi, he had arrived in the association, in the congregation of the Vaishnavas, where Paramhans Babaji was also sitting, Lahiri Masha was also sitting, and his son Devidas, along with other Vaishnav, they were all sitting together. So Kazi had come over there, and Lahiri Masha asked him few questions about his faith. He was a Muslim. So they asked him a few questions about his faith. Lahiri Masha asked him, and Kazi then answered to them. Now, Devidas, the young person, very learned, a teacher, a Brahmin, a Pandit, he was a son of Lahiri Masha. Lahiri Masha was a fully now a Vaishnav, no more a householder now. So Devidas Vidyaratan was a teacher, and for a very long time he had been firmly convinced that the Brahmanas were foremost among all Varnas. He believed that no one except the Brahmanas are fit to obtain the highest goal of life, and that unless he takes birth in a Brahman family, the Jiva cannot attain mukti. When he heard the discussions between the Vaishnavas and the descendants of Chand Ghazi, he became completely dissatisfied. He could not penetrate the statements of Qazi Sahib at all, for they were full of deep fundamental truths. His father, Lahiri Mashe, he had studied Farsi and Arabic, and he had been studying religion for a very long time. But why does he give so much respect to the Muslims? So that was the question disturbing Devidas. A Hindu is obliged to take bath in order to purify himself if he as much as touches a Muslim. So, what could Paramhans Babaji Maharaj have been thinking when he invited such a person to be seated in the assembly and offered him so much respect? So, this disturbance was going on in his mind, and he had now made up his mind to take up this matter for clarification and understanding from the seniors, the senior Vaishnavas, as to what is the opinion of them and what should he be doing. So there were two groups of people over there. One were the Brahmins and the Pandits, and this was presented by Devidas, and one of the other Brahman Pandit, one of the senior most Brahman Pandits, his name was Chudamani. So this was the one group, Brahmins and Pandits, where Devidas and Chudamani were there. And then there was another group where Vaishnavas were there, and Vaishnav Das and Paramandas Babaji and all other Vaishnavas were there. So this group's congregation was there. The whole chapter is the discussion between these two groups. One group is seeking clarifications about the associations with the outcast people who are not part of the four varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras, who fall outside these varnas. So they wanted clarification as to how are these outcast people to be dealt with. So Vidyaratan then applied himself wholeheartedly to his task for a couple of days. So Paramhans Babaji, Vaishnav Das, Pandit Anant Das from the village of Shri Narsimhapalli, Lahiri Mashe, and Yadav Das from Kuliaga started chanting Harinam on their Tulsi Mala, absorbed in Parmanand. At that particular time, the famous Pandit Krishna Chudamani, he arrived together with Vidyaratan Mashe. Chaturbhuja Padmarat from Samudragad, Chintamani Narayan from Kasi, and Kalidas Vashyapati from Purvasthali. The Vaishnavas offered great respect to the learned Brahmins and they had them seated. See, all of them seated together, both the Brahmins and the Pandits on one side, and the Vaishnavas. They greeted the Brahmins and Pandits because they had come to the place where Vaishnavas resided. So the Brahmins from Vidyaratam had prepared for a debate, offered pranam to Lahiri Mashe because he was a Vaishnava and one of the senior most, and also the father of Devidas. Devidas was a teacher, a Pandit, a Brahmin. So they offered their pranam to Lahiri Mashe because he was senior to all of them. And Lahiri Mashe, who was by now conversant with the confidential truths of the Shastra, immediately returned their pranam to the Pandits. Of all the Pandits, Krishna Chudamani was the most senior and most wise person also. He had debated the meaning of the Shastra with many other Pandits in Kasi, Mithila, and also numerous other places, and had defeated all the opponents. So he was a very learned person, Chudamani. So he is going to represent his point of view and he's going to lead the debate on behalf of the Brahmins and the Pandits. Chudamani said, "Today we have come to take darshan of the Vaishnavas. Although we do not support all your conduct, we very much admire your exclusive devotion." And the question he asks is, why do you associate with Muslims on the pretext of bhakti? We wish to discuss this matter with you. However, amongst you, whoever is expert in the debate should come forward and lead the reply. Paramhans Babaji, who was a senior most person, he chose not to participate in the debate. Pandit Anant Das Babaji was a scholar of the Nyaya Shastra, but everyone requested Shri Vaishnav Das Babaji to conduct the debate. The Vaishnavas could immediately understand that Devidas Vidyaratan had instigated this turmoil. Lahiri Masha was also present and he added, Devi is extremely proud. His mind became disturbed on the day he witnessed our behavior with Kasi Sahib, and that is why he has now brought all these Brahman Pandits over here. So he was disturbed. So Larry Mashaji could understand that Devi, his son, had brought this Qazi Sahab. Uh, I mean, he could not tolerate the discussion they had the earlier with Qazi Sahab, who was the Muslim and who was associated with them. And that is why he had now brought all the Brahmins and the Pandits now for a discussion to understand their earlier association and the respect they gave to the Qazi Sahab. So he is going to deliberate on this thing. So the first question Chudamani on behalf of the Pandits and the Brahmins asked was about the jati or the caste. He asked, is jati or caste Nitya, or is it invariable? Are the Hindus and Muslims not different castes? Do the Hindus not become fallen by associating with Muslims? To this, the reply given by Vaishnav Das Babaji, he said the term jati or the caste, it is not amongst the human beings. It is only invented recently. The word jati means the people born in different different births, like goats, like sheep, like cows, like dogs, like human beings. That is jati. Jati is not amongst the human beings. So he made it very clear, Vaishnav Das, about this. He says the terms refers to the difference of species such as that which is found between cows, goats, and human beings. Chudamani said, yes, what you say is quite true. But does that mean that there is no jati bhed caste distinction between Hindus and Muslims? And through this, Vaishnav Das, he replied, yes, there is a distinction between the castes, but that type of jati is not eternal. Human beings have only one jati, which is in this case means species. Within the human species, many different jati or castes have been invented. Remember, the word used is invented. They have been created, but it is not the creation of the Almighty. It is not the creation of the Bhagwan Ji. It is not the creation of God. It is only invented by human beings only. And this is based on the differences of language, differences in the country, difference in the style of dresses, and difference in the skin color. Chudamani then asked further, is there no difference in terms of birth? Or does the difference between Hindus and Muslims consist of nothing more than the difference in their clothing and other such things? To this, Vaishnav Das replies, Jivas are born into higher or lower varnas, caste systems, according to their previous karma. And in the congruity with their varnas, they are eligible for different types of work. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras. These are the four varnas. All four are Antayaja, which means that they are low born. All others, other than these four varnas, all these four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras, anybody other than these four, they are all out of the caste, or what is called Antyaja, which means that they are low born and outside the caste system. Then Chudamani asks, are the Muslims not outcast? Vaishnav Das replies, yes. According to the Shastra, they are outside the jurisdiction of our four varnas or Antyaja. Chudamani says, then how can Muslims be Vaishnavas? And how can respectable Vaishnavas associate with them? Very educative question. Let's see what Vaishnav Das has to reply. He says, Vaishnavas are those who have pure bhakti, and all human beings are candidates for Vaishnav Dharma. Muslims are not eligible to perform the duties prescribed for the different varnas in the Varnashram system because their birth disqualifies them. However, very important, however, they have every right to participate in the practices of bhakti. One can never say that he knows the actual purport of the Shastras until he has minutely examined the subtle differences between Karma Kand, Gyan Kand, and Bhakti Kand. Then Chudamani further asks a question. One cannot become a Vaishnav without first completing one's eligibility for karma. Muslims are not eligible even to perform the prescribed karma within the Varna ashram. because they are outcasts. So how can they become eligible for bhakti? This is a question asked on behalf of the ignorant people. To this, Vaishnav Das replies, outcast human beings have every right to practice bhakti. No matter he is Muslim or he is outcast or whatever it is, he has every right to practice bhakti. All the Shastras accept this. And Bhagwan Ji himself has stated this in Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. He had said, women, Vaishyas, Shudras, and low-born people who have taken birth in sinful families can attain the supreme destination by taking shelter of me. This is given in Bhagavad Gita, Shlok number 32 of chapter 9. And then further, it is mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas, whether one is a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or an outcast, if he has taken shelter of Vishnu Bhakti, he is considered to be superior to all. Chudamani then further asks, how can the defect of degraded birth be removed? Can a defect relating to one's birth be removed without taking another birth? To this, Vaishnav Das replies, the defect of a degraded birth is the result of prarabdha karma, previous birth's karma, sanchit karma, prarabdha karma. Previous activities, they are the result of previous activities, previous birth's activities that have begun to bear fruit in his life. And this prarabdha karma can be destroyed by uttering the name of Bhagwan Ji. Just utter Naam Jap, utter the name of Bhagwan. The ill effects of the previous births, the sins of the previous birth, they will all be removed. And the proof of this is stated in Shrimad Bhagavatam. It says, even a low-born dog eater can be delivered from material existence simply by hearing the holy name of Bhagwan Ji, even once. Then further Chudamani asks a question, then why is it that a Chandal, a dog eater, who chants Harinam is barred from performing yagnas and other Brahmanical activities? To this, Vaishnav Das then he replies, there are two types of human activity, material activities that relate to practical existence or vyavaharika, and spiritual activities that relate to the ultimate truth, paramarthika. A person may have attained spiritual qualification, but that does not necessarily qualify him for particular material activities. Okay. So here he is giving a reply to Chudamani, who keeps on asking about the reasons why outcasts are being given importance. And then Vaishnava further says, but these outcast people, he still remains ineligible for certain material activities such as marrying the daughter of a Brahman. Chudamani says, why is it that? What is wrong if he does marry a Brahman's daughter? Vaishnav Das says, if one violates social customs, one is guilty of vyavaharik dosh. Secular impropriety and members of society who take pride in their social respectability, they do not condone such activities. That is why one should not perform them, even if he is spiritually qualified. So there are two types of activities, material activities and spiritual activities. But one must respect the material activities also, vyavahar, the social customs, the social society. One should respect that also. This is what Vaishnava says. Then Chudamani then says in reply to the answer, Please tell me, what is the cause of eligibility for karma and what is the cause of eligibility for bhakti? Who all can do bhakti? Whether outcasts, he is hinting out, whether outcasts can also do bhakti. And to this, Vaishnav Das answers, tat tat karma yogya sabhav jnanam, nature, birth, and other such vyavaharikata or practical causes that make one suitable for a particular type of work are the sources of eligibility for karma. The source of eligibility for bhakti is tatvikas shraddha or faith. Faith that is rooted in the absolute truth. Faith in Bhagwanji. Whoever has faith in Bhagwanji is eligible to do bhakti. And then Vaishnava further says the qualities that are found in the nature of a Brahman, and they are as under these are controls of the senses. A Brahman has control over the senses, control over the mind, austerity, purity, satisfaction, simplicity, forgiveness, devotion to Bhagwanji, mercy, and truthfulness. So these are the qualities of a Brahman. And what are the qualities of a Kshatriya? Vaishnav Das replied, the natural qualities of a Kshatriya are prowess, tej, physical strength, resoluteness, heroism, tolerance, magnanimity, preservance, gravity, devotion to the Brahmins, and opulence. And now the qualities that characterize the Vaishnavas, they are theism, charity, faith, absence of pride, and eagerness to accumulate wealth. And the natural qualities of a Shudra, they are the service to the Brahmanas, to the cows, and to the celestial deities, and satisfaction with whatever is obtained. Santosh, yatha labh, santosh, satisfaction. Whatever he gets, he should be satisfied with that. That is the quality of a Shudra. The qualities in the nature of an Antayaja, who is an outcast. What are the qualities of an outcast? They are that he is unclean, he is not clean, dishonesty, thievery, atheism, futile quarreling, lust, anger, and hankering to satisfy one's senses. The Shastras prescribe that one varna should be determined according to these different natures. The determination of varna on the basis of birth alone is a recent practice. I repeat, very important part of this chapter. The Shastras prescribe that one's varna, that is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, the four varnas, the Shastras prescribe that one's varna should be determined according to these different natures, what we mentioned just now about the qualities or the natures of the Brahman, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Shudra, and the outcast. And their determination of varna on the basis of birth alone is a recent practice only. To determination of the varna on the basis of birth is not approved. It is only a recent practice. Actually, it is the nature which they follow that is the, right way of determining the varnas. Then Chudamani further asks, what is meant by Tatvika Shraddha or faith in the absolute Bhagwanji? He is now very eager to know what is faith. Remember, Chudamani is a Brahman and a Pandit, and Vaishnav Das is a high class Vaishnav, very learned, very much educated. Now, Vaishnav Das then replies, Tatvika Shraddha is pure-hearted faith in Bhagwanji. Shraddha means faith in Bhagwanji. So only he is eligible to bhakti. Whoever has faith in Bhagwanji, whoever has Shraddha in Bhagwanji. Vaishnav Das further says, Shraddha is the only cause of eligibility for bhakti. And it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4:11. Whatever results are obtained with great difficulty through fruitive activities, austerity, knowledge, renunciation, practice of yoga, charity, religious duties, and all other auspicious types of sadhana or practice are easily obtained by the bhaktas through the power of bhakti yoga. Although Bhagwan's bhaktas are free from all ambition, they could easily obtain promotion to the celestial planets or attain liberation or residence in Vaikuntha Dham if they at all desired such things. This is the systematic development of Bhakti Yoga that arises from Shraddha or faith. Right? Then Chudamani further asks a question. In total, he asks around about 30 questions. So have patience. And the number of questions Chudamani asked and the reply given by Vaishnava, it will help us a lot. It will help us in clearing all our doubts. So Chudamani further asks, what if I don't accept the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam? To this Vaishnava Das replies, this is the conclusion of all the Shastras. If you don't accept Bhagavatam, you will be troubled by other Shastras also. There is no need for me to quote many different Shastras. You may simply consider what is said in Bhagavad Gita, which is accepted by all people and by all faiths and by all philosophical systems. So that is the reply given by Vaishnav Das. And further, he says, the Bhakti yogis are the best because Bhakti yogi is endowed with unlimited auspiciousness and is unparalleled in this supremacy. And this conclusion is also supported in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 6 and shlok number 47. Here Bhagwanji says, O Arjun, of all yogis, I consider the topmost yogi to be the one who constantly worships me with great faith and his mind deeply absorbed in loving attachment of me. So this is authenticated by a quote of the shlok number 47, chapter number 6 of Bhagavad Gita. And further, Vaishnava says, Shri Krishna promises, very important statement by Krishna. Shri Krishna promises, my bhakta will never perish. My bhakta will never perish. Statement by Shri Krishna. The bhakta has the supreme destination in his grasp, whether he takes birth in a sinful family or in the home of a Brahmana. So he's made it very clearly. Whether you are born in a outcast family or you are born in a Brahman family, a bhakta, he need not fear at all. He has the supreme destination. And irrespective whether he is born in a outcast family or in a Brahman family, he is eligible to bhakti and he can also reach the supreme destination, which is the ultimate prem of Krishna and reaching Golok Vrindavan Dham in his planet where Krishna lives. Chudamani further asks a question. Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they explain that bhakti arises from Shraddha. But I would like to know what the jiva should do to attain this Shraddha. Shraddha kaise aati hai? How does Shraddha come? How one can achieve Shraddha? And to this, Vaishnav Das Babaji, he replies, The word Shraddha means to have faith in the Vedas and in the words of Shri Guru. Very, very clear. What is the meaning of Shraddha? Shraddha means to have faith in two things, in the Vedas, in our scriptures, and in the words of Shri Guru Dev. Shraddha is a characteristic function of the heart that strives towards bhakti alone, which is totally devoid of karma and jnana, and which desires nothing other than the exclusive pleasure of Krishna. When the sadhaka or the practitioner of bhakti regularly hears the instructions of sadhus in the association of Shuddh Bhaktas, a conviction arises in his heart that he cannot obtain his eternal welfare by the methods of karma, jnana, yoga, and so on, and that he has no means of success unless he takes exclusive shelter at the lotus feet of Shri Hari. When this conviction appears, it may be understood that Shraddha has arisen in the sadhakas or the practitioner's heart. And the nature of Shraddha is described in Amanya Sutra also. Shraddha is characterized by its external symptom known as Sharnagati, surrender to Shri Hari. Very, very important that you must surrender, take Sarnagati of Shri Hari. And this Vaishnav Das first further explains about Sharnagati or surrender. He says there are 6 symptoms of self-surrender. Please note very, very carefully. There are 6 symptoms of self-surrender. The first 2 are Anukshiltya or Sankalp and Patikulsya Vrajanam, which means I will only do that which is favorable for unalloyed bhakti. This is called Sankalp or Parijajna, a solemn vow. So, to repeat, there are 6 symptoms. The first 2 are Anukulsya and the Pratikulsya, which means I will only do that which is favorable for unalloyed bhakti, and I will reject all other that is unfavorable to bhakti. And this is called Sankalp or Pratigya, a solemn vow. The third symptom of self-surrender is Raksisyati Vishwaso, which means faith in Bhagwan or as one's protector. Bhagwan is my only protector. I can derive absolute no benefit from Jnana Yoga and other practices. This is the expression of trust. This is the expression of trust. Full faith, full Vishwas that only Bhagwan can give me protection. He can only solve my all problems. For full faith, Vishwas. The fourth symptom is Goptarva Varnam, which means deliberate acceptance of Bhagwan's as one's maintainer. I cannot obtain anything or even maintain myself by my own endeavor. I will serve Bhagwan as far as I am able to, and he will take care of me. This is what is meant by dependence or nirbharata. The fifth symptom is Atmanispe or surrender. Who am I? I am his. My duty is to fulfill his desire. This is submission of the self or Atmanivedan. And lastly, the sixth symptom of self-surrender is Kirpanya, meekness. I am wretched. I am insignificant and materially destitute. This is what is meant by humility, Karpanya or Dhanya. So these are the 6 symptoms of self-surrender. When these moods of self-surrender become established in the heart, a disposition arises that is called Shraddha. A Jeev who has this Shraddha is eligible for Bhakti. And this is the first stage in the development of the Svabhav, like that of those pure Jivas who are eternally liberated. Therefore, this is the Nitya Sabhav of the Jivas, and all other Sabhav or the natures are Namitta. So that goes with the title of the chapter, Nitya Dharma, Race and Caste. So Vaishnav Das is telling us what is Nitya. This Nitya Sabhav of the Jivas or Shraddha and all other Sabhav are Namitta. A Jiva who has this Shraddha is eligible for Bhakti only. And this is the first stage in the development of the Sabhav, and like that of the pure Jivas who are eternally liberated, and they are the Nitya Sabhav. Chudamani further asks, he is never going to end his questions because he, on behalf of all the Pandits and Brahmins, wants to understand the position of the outcast people vis-a-vis the Brahman peoples. So Chudamani now asks, these are all virtuous deeds, no doubt, Shraddha. Then Muslims do not perform Satkarma or virtuous deeds. So how can they be eligible for Bhakti? Very valid question. And to this, Vaishnav Das replies, it is a fact that Shraddha arises from Sukruti, pious deeds. It is stated in the Naradya Puran. The inclination for bhakti is awakened by association with Bhagwan's bhaktas. The jiva obtains the association of Shuddha bhaktas by the accumulated effect of spirituality, pious activities performed by other many lifetimes. And this is not a result of one lifetime only. This is accumulated over many, many lifetimes. And then the Sukruti comes to worship Bhagwanji, to be in association of devotees, to be in association of sadhus. And then the faith and inclination towards bhakti comes. And now we are going to understand a little bit more about Skruti, Mukti, and Rati. Please pay a little bit more attention as usual. There are two types of Skruti, Nitya and Namitta. The Skruti by which one obtains sadhu sangha and bhakti is Nitya Skruti. The Skruti by which one obtains material enjoyment and impersonal liberation is Namitta Skruti. Temporary Skruti. Namitta means temporary. Skruti which bears eternal fruit is Nitya Skruti, permanent Skruti. Skruti which bears temporary results which are dependent upon some cause is Namitta or Anitya Skruti. Now let's go towards Mukti. Many people think that Mukti is eternal, but this is only because they do not know the actual nature of Mukti. The cause of the Jivatma's bondage is association with Maya. Why is a living being bound over here in the material world? It is because he is associated with Maya. The cause of the Jivatma's bondage is association with Maya, and Mukti is the complete dissolution of this bondage. When this bondage finishes, then Mukti arises. Now see what Vaishnav Das further says about this dissolution of the bondage of Mukti. The act of deliverance or release from bondage is accomplished in a single moment. So the act of release is not in itself an eternal action. Mukti is not eternal. It is again instant only. All consideration of mukti ends as soon as emancipation is attained. So, mukti is nothing more than the destruction of a material cause. Therefore, since mukti is only negation of a temporary material cause, it is also namikta, temporary, causal, and temporary. Now let's understand a little bit about rati, which is the superior of all these. On the other hand, rati or attachment for the feet of Shri Hari never ends once it is established in the heart of the jiva. Therefore, this rati or bhakti is nitya dharma. And if we analyze its practices, then none of them can be said to be namikta. Mukti is but an irrelevant secondary result of bhakti. To gain factual knowledge and realization of that eternal supreme person, one should find a qualified guru who is learned in the Vedas, who is firmly established in the service of Bhagwan, and who knows the absolute truth. Here, sadhu sang is recommended. Karma Yoga and Gyan all produce Namikta Skruti. Bhakta Sangh, the association of Bhaktas, and Bhakti Kriya Sangh, they contact with acts of devotion, produce Nitya Skruti. Chudamani then further asks, please explain what do you mean by Bhakta Sangh and Bhakti Kriya Sangh? To this, Vaishnav Das replies, Bhakti Sangh means conversing with Shuddh Bhaktas, serving them, and hearing their discourses, their lectures. Shuddh Bhaktas perform the activities of bhakti such as public speeches, congregations, chanting of Shri Harinam. Now, and participation in these activities or performing them on one's own is called Bhakti Kriya Sangh, contact with acts of devotion. Now, it is being explained that how important it is to have sadhu sang or bhakta sang, and then only skrutis will arise. Vaishnava further says, thus all types of skruti that nourish bhakti are nitya skruti. When this skruti becomes strong, one gradually develops shraddha in ananya bhakti, unalloyed bhakti, and one attains sadhu sang. Birth in a Muslim family is a result of namikta, duskriti, or temporary impious deeds, whereas faith in Ananya Bhakti is the result of Nityaskruti, eternal pious deeds. What is surprising about this? Why are you surprised? He asks Chudamani. So anybody who goes towards bhakti, and anybody can go towards bhakti, irrespective of where he is born. Sadhu Sang will help in that. It will take you in the right direction. Chudamani then further asks, is there no difference between an Aryan and a Yavana? Yavana are outcast people. So he is asking, is there no difference between an Aryan and a Yavana? To this Vaishnav Das replies, there are two kinds of differences. Paramarthika, those that relate to absolute reality, and Vyavharika, those that relate to practical experience. There is no Paramarthika difference between Aryans and Yavanas. Yet a Vyavharika difference does exist. The term Vyavharika refers to worldly customs. In domestic life, Yavanas or outcasts are considered untouchable. So their association is unsuitable for the Vyavaharika or practical point of view. Aryans should not touch water and food that has been touched by a Yavana. The body of a Yavana or a outcast is insignificant and untouchable because of his unfortunate birth. Vaishnadas further says, the Shastras have affirmed this lucidly. Bhirguvara Nara Matram Taryat Krishna Nama, which means, O best of the Bhrigus, Shri Krishna Nam delivers all men. So here, Nam Jap is glorified. Very, very important. Hari Nam. It will deliver all men if you take Hari Nam. According to this shlok, Yavanas and all other human beings have an equal opportunity to attain the supreme goal of life. Those who are devoid of Nitya Skruti are known as Devapada Pasu, two-legged animals, because they have no faith in Krishna Nam. Such people have no human qualities, even though they have attained a human birth. So very clearly, Vaishnav Das had made it clear. He further says, in this material world, there are four transcendental objects that awaken spiritual consciousness. How does spiritual consciousness comes in a living being? And he said there are four material transcendental objects, and these are Mahaprasad, Krishna, Krishna Nam, and Vaishnav. To this, sarcastically, Chudamani asks about Mahaprasad, the ingredients of Mahaprasad, and he asks, how can rice, dal, and vegetables be chinmay or spiritual? How can Mahaprasad be spiritual, which consists of rice, dal, vegetables? There is nothing what you Vaishnavas are incapable of. To this, Vaishnava says, he ignores whatever he said. He says, whatever you do, Vaishnav Das, he says to Chudamani, whatever you do, please do not criticize the Vaishnavas. This is my humble request to you. In a debate, one should argue the points in question only. What is the use of deriding the Vaishnavas? Why are you insulting or deriding the Vaishnavas? In this material world, Mahaprasad is the only food which is fit to be accepted because it provokes spiritual consciousness and dissolves one's materialistic nature. Further, he says, an introspective jiva will not be degraded if he accepts only those worldly things that are necessary for the maintenance of his body, considering them to be the remnants of Bhagwanji. On the contrary, his inclination towards spiritual consciousness will be aroused. The remnants of food and other articles offered to Bhagwanji are known as Mahaprasad. It is a great misfortune that you have no faith in such extraordinary objects. Now, Chudamari continues to ask question, and the next question he asks is, what is the proper behavior between the Yavanas or outcasts and you people, that is you Vaishnavas? To this, Vaishnav Das replies, as long as someone remains a Yavana, we remain indifferent to him. However, when someone who was formerly a Yavana and he becomes a Vaishnav by the influence of Nitya Skruti, we no longer consider him to be Yavana. Then Chudamani further asks, then can a Grahast or householder Vaishnav make a marriage relationship with a Yavana family or with an outcast family? To this, Vaishnav Das replies, from the general point of view, Yavana remains a Yavana in the eyes of the general population until he relinquishes his body. But from the absolute point of view, he is no longer regarded as a Yavana once he attains bhakti. Marriage is one of the 10 kinds of social customs or rites, and if a householder or grest Vaishnav is an Aryan, that is, if he is included within the four Varnas, he should not only marry within that four Varnas only. What he means to say is a person a person should marry within his own Varna. Vaishnav should adopt whatever is favorable for bhakti, and one can only give up the duties of the Varnas when he has become qualified to do so by genuine detachment. Then one can give up the duties of the four Varnas and everything associated with them. Varna dharma can be given up easily when it becomes unfavorable to bhajan or bhakti. Similarly, a Yavana who has awakened faith in bhakti, he has the right to give up the association of the Yavana community if it becomes unfavorable to bhajan or bhakti. Now, another important learning for all of us, a grahast or householder Vaishnav should not give up his domestic society until he is fully qualified to do so, even if it is unfavorable to bhajan. However, he can easily give up worldly society when firm attachment and affection for that which is favorable to bhajan awakens within his heart. Okay. Then Bhagwan bestows his mercy upon a Jeev with whom he is pleased because, because of his self surrender or his service to him by complete absorption of his inner faculties. At that time, the Jiva gives up attachment for all social customs and religious rituals prescribed by the Vedas. And Chudamani further asks a question, can Vaishnavas eat food, drink water, and conduct other such activities with a Yavana who has truly become a Vaishnav? And Vaishnav thus replies, a renounced Vaishnav who is indifferent to all social restrictions is known as Nirapeksha, without any needs or requirements. And he can honor Mahaprasad with such a Vaishnav. A grahast or householder Vaishnav cannot sit and eat with him in the context of an ordinary social or family dealings. But there is no such objection when it becomes to honoring Vishnu or Vaishnav Prasad. In fact, it is his duty. Then Chudamani further asks, then why it is that Yavana Vaishnavas are not permitted to worship and serve the deities in the Vaishnav temples? To this, Vaishnav Das replies, all Vaishnavas have the right to serve Krishna. If a grahast or householder Vaishnav serves the deity in a way that breaks the rules of Varnashram, it is considered to be a fault from the worldly point of view. Nirapeksh Vaishnavas are not required to worship the deity because that would hinder their quality of being free from all external requirements and dependencies. They remain engaged in serving Shri Radha Vallabh through the service carried out by the internally conceived spiritual form or Mansi Seva. These people, the Nirpeksh Vaishnavas, they do Mansi Seva. They may not do deity worship because they have got nothing to do with external world. because they are all the time engaged within, nothing to do with the world outside. They do Mansi Seva. Chudamani says, I understand all this, what you have said. Now, please tell me, what do you think about the Brahmins? He's coming towards the end of the chapter, and his questions are now becoming more and more refined. So, Chudamani now asks, tell me what you think about the Brahmins. The Vaishnav Das replies, there are two types of Brahmins. Brahmins by nature, Svabhav Siddha, and Brahmins by birth, or Jati Siddha. Those who are Brahmins by nature should be respected by adherents of all philosophical systems because they are practically Vaishnavas. And those who are only Brahmins by birth are given conventional respect by everyone. And this is also approved by the Vaishnavas. Coming towards the end of the chapter, Chudamani asks, Shudras are not eligible to study the Vedas. So can a Shudra study the Vedas when he becomes a Vaishnav? And to this Vaishnav Das replies, pure Vaishnavas can study and teach the Vedas that promote spiritual truth, no matter what caste they are born into. And it is practically observed that they do so. So, one of the last question by Chudamani, then do you Vaishnav people conclude that the Vedas that promote Tattva or the truth teach only Vaishnav Dharma and no longer any other religion? I repeat the last question of Chudamani. Then do you Vaishnav people conclude that the Vedas that promote the Tattva or truth teach only Vaishnav Dharma and no other religion? To this Vaishnav Das replied, Dharma is one. Dharma is one, eternal, and not two. And it is also known as Nitya Dharma or Vaishnav Dharma. Vaishnav Dharma is the one Dharma and it is eternal. All other forms of Namitta Dharma taught in the Vedas are simply steps leading to that eternal religion. And Vaishnav Das then says, I shall now describe to you in brief that ultimate truth that all the Vedas have repeatedly described as the supreme object of attainment. And this last sentence is very important. And Vaishnava says that abode of Vishnu, the all pervading Paramatma, Vasudev, is the only supreme destination. I repeat, that abode or destination of Vishnu, the all pervading Paramatma or Vasudev, is the supreme destination. Now, after getting all the replies from Vaishnav Das, both Devi Das and Chudamani, and all the other Brahmins and Pandits who had come in their company, all their faces became pale and they also become withered. And their enthusiasm was shattered because Vaishnav Das had given very good replies and all quoted from the scriptures and the Shastras. And then the meeting came to an end of that particular day in the association of Brahmins and Pandits and the Vaishnavas. So with this, we come to the end of the chapter number 6, titled Nitya Dharma, Race and Caste of Jaiv Dharma. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for being with me.